his Clippers debut on Monday against the Knicks in New York. He'll be a spectator again tonight when the Clippers and Lakers meet up at Crypto, 7 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. Congratulations to Lakers legend Magic Johnson. According to Forbes magazine, Magic has reached billionaire status. Magic's net worth is a reported $1.2 billion. Magic joins LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Tiger Woods in the Billionaire Club. LeBron became a billionaire in 2022. Magic's numerous business investments include part ownership of the Dodgers, the LA Sparks, and the NFL Washington Commanders. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours, now through December 20th. All of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit TheTavisSmileyShow.com. That's TheTavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, when one references the care industry in America, one should be talking about nurturing, feeding, and loving fellow human beings. Instead, Barnard College history professor Premilla Nadasen is inviting us to join her in an eye-opening reckoning with the care economy, from its roots in racial capitalism to its exponential growth as a new site of profit and extraction. That is what the care industry in this country has become, a site for profit and extraction. We'll talk about it in our second hour. In our third hour, what happens when you're recording a police stop, the police get annoyed by your very presence, and they turn around and arrest you, throw you in the paddy wagon, and haul you off to jail? I guess the first question is, can cops actually do that? Well, whether they can or not, that's exactly what they did to Jill Colleen Jefferson of the civil rights and international human rights firm Julian, named after Julian Bond. You'll hear the story of Jill's arrest and what happened next when she joins us today in hour 3. In this first hour, 2 more conversations on the B side of this hour. Yesterday, an Israeli air attack hit apartment blocks in a residential area of a densely populated refugee camp, killing and wounding hundreds. You've seen this story, no doubt, everywhere about this bomb that was dropped on this refugee camp. The director of a nearby hospital said that scores were killed, but at this hour there are fears that the death toll will rise. Israel has acknowledged the dropping of that bomb. It says it was successful, though, in killing Hamas militants, and one Israeli spokesperson suggested that collateral damage is just a part of war. Wow. The war is escalating and creating a dangerous and disastrous humanitarian crisis in Gaza, no doubt about that. Ain't that the mother of all understatements? Arwa Damon is a former international correspondent for CNN and the president and founder of the International Network for Aid, Relief, and Assistance. She'll join us on the backside of this hour. But we commence today's show with Yumna Patel, the Palestine news director for the U.S.-based publication Mondoweiss, which is actually founded by the anti-Zionist Jewish brother Phil Weiss. Yumna Patel is based in Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank. I'm pleased to welcome Yumna Patel to this program. Yumna, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
It's my great delight to have you on. Thank you for the time. Let me just jump right in and make the most of the time that we have together. This war is now in its second phase, I guess, if you want to quote Bibi Netanyahu. I don't need to ask anything too deep for starters. What do you make of what we're witnessing right now, today, in real time?
Sure. I mean, as you said, right now, the way that Israel and certainly the mainstream media are referring to what we're witnessing in Gaza is the second phase of Israel's war. But what Palestinians, particularly those on the ground in Gaza, are saying is they are witnessing a genocide and ethnic cleansing happening in real time. You mentioned earlier the bombing of a densely populated refugee camp yesterday. And I'm not sure if you've seen the news, but Israel bombed that same refugee camp for the second time today, less than 24 hours after that initial bomb that wiped out an entire neighborhood block. And as you mentioned, this is a refugee camp. So Gaza is one of the most densely populated places on the planet. And this is the largest refugee camp and most densely populated area within Gaza. And so the bombs that were dropped yesterday, while Israel claims, they were targeting a Hamas commander, the reality is that at least 50 Palestinians were killed. Hundreds of others were wounded. Hundreds are still trapped under the rubble. And as Palestinians from that refugee camp were still trying to dig out their loved ones, Israel dropped another round of bombs today around noon local time. Every day we're getting reports successively of more and more hospitals in Gaza going out of service and running out of fuel. Earlier today, the Turkish Palestinian Friendship Hospital, which is the only cancer hospital in Gaza. It's a lifeline to around 10,000 cancer patients in Gaza. It was forced to shut down its doors due to fuel shortages today. And now Gaza's main hospital, the Shifa Hospital, and some other main healthcare centers as well are saying that they are under imminent threat of being shut down because they have no more fuel to run their generators. So to say that Gaza is facing, a humanitarian catastrophe is, would be the understatement of the century.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about. Just getting started. Yumna Patel is our guest. She's the Palestine news director for the U.S.-based publication Mondoweiss. There are a few things she said already that I want to interrogate. I was at an event here in Los Angeles over the weekend. Someone, it was a pretty sizable gathering, and somebody in that gathering referred to what was happening in Gaza as genocide. And there were a number of people in that audience who got up and just walked out. And a number of them walked past me on their way out, and they were yelling, "It's not genocide. It's not genocide. This is not genocide." They rejected wholeheartedly the suggestion made by one person in that gathering that what we're witnessing is genocide, ethnic cleansing. Here you hear Yumna Patel use those terms. I want to interrogate that when we come forward because there are a lot of folk who are just put off by that terminology. I am not one of them, admittedly, but there are those who are concerned about that, and I want to talk about that. Also, I don't know if you've seen this Wolf Blitzer clip that's circulating everywhere. I'm going to try to get my team to find it right quick. But Wolf is interviewing one of the military officials on the Israeli side and ask him about dropping this bomb on this refugee camp. If I can find this clip, if not, I'll quote it. But you have to hear exactly what he said to Wolf when Wolf asked him, but did y'all know that there were innocent people? Did you know there were civilians in that neighborhood when you drop this bomb? You have to hear his response. We'll try to find it for you. You're listening to Yuna Patel on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom. Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac, perfected like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat in the Lex since 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Deal it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bussin', truckin'. Cadillac, Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range. On a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with the CHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
Meet LA's most affordable health plan. This open enrollment season, LA Care Covered is proud to offer the lowest cost health plans in Los Angeles County, featuring zero-cost preventive services to help you achieve your wellness goals. Be part of the region's largest HMO network, featuring UCLA Health, Optum, and allied physicians without breaking the bank. We are here to help. Call us at 855-222-4239 for enrollment assistance. That's 855-222-4239. LA Care Covered. Your wellness, our mission.
Who do you trust to get at the truth?
Tavis Smiley.
That's who. The conversation continues right now.
I'm Tavis Smiley. Our guest is Yumna Patel, the Palestine news director for the U.S.-based publication Mondoweiss. We'll get to that clip in a moment here. They're queuing it up for me. They did find it. And I just want you to hear this clip, which we'll get to in a moment. Before I do that, though, let me, Yumna, go straight to the issue I raised moments ago. And that is the issue of genocide and ethnic cleansing. You use those words without any equivocation or hesitation whatsoever. Others have done likewise. And yet, the use of that terminology is calling all kinds of people to have fits. For those who reject the use of the term genocide, for those who reject the use of the term ethnic cleansing, you say what?
Sure. I mean, you don't have to take it from me. You don't have to take it from Palestinians. You can take it straight from Israeli officials. I mean, the official Israeli line and the rhetoric coming from the defense minister, the prime minister, and even from U.S. officials, frankly, have been one of Israel's genocidal intents in Gaza. You know, from the beginning of calling Gazans human animals and saying we are dealing with human animals and they must be dealt with accordingly. From open calls to, quote, wipe out Hamas. It's easy for Israel to argue, well, we're only trying to target Hamas. We're targeting Hamas. That's what they argued when they bombed the Jabalia refugee camp. But consistently, and not just since October 7th, but for decades, Israel has embarked on a campaign, a propaganda campaign to equate the 2.3 million Palestinians living in Gaza half of whom are children, to equate them with Hamas and to essentially justify its slaughter of Palestinians in Gaza, saying, well, they elected Hamas, or Hamas is using them as human shields, et cetera. So in Israel's own rhetoric and its plans for Gaza to wipe it out, to make sure that Hamas, never sees the light of day, calling Gazans and Palestinians human animals. All of this is indicative of what Israel's, plans are with Gaza. And to go even a step further, we can go past the rhetoric, and we can also even look directly at internal official Israeli documents. I think it was just yesterday or the day before, documents were revealed from Israel's Ministry of Intelligence showing laid out plans by Israeli officials and Israeli intelligence officials to commit mass forcible expulsion and to move 2.3 million Palestinians from Gaza out and put them in refugee camps in 10 cities in the Egyptian Sinai. And, this is something that we've covered on Mondoweiss, and it's something that Israeli officials are outlining themselves in internal plans. They want to move Gazans out of North Gaza, which they've already done. They want to bomb that to smithereens, corner Gazans into southern Gaza, eventually, extended their ground operations and aerial bombardment there, which has already begun, and then eventually push as many Gazans as they can into the Sinai. So when I use words like genocide and ethnic cleansing, and when others use those words, it's not, you don't have to take it from us. You can take it directly from the Israeli officials.
Let's take this directly from Wolf Blitzer. Here's the clip that I promised you. I think they've got it queued up. This is Wolf talking to a particular military official with the Israeli forces. You'll hear it for yourself.
I want to ask you first about this massive blast that we all just saw. We saw the video at the Jabalia refugee camp in Gaza. Is there anything more you could first of all tell us about how this explosion happened?
Hi, Wolf. Thanks for having me. So we'll be coming out in the next, hopefully, hour with more data, but I can update you now that there was a very senior Hamas commander in that area. Sadly, he was hiding, again, as they do, behind within civilians. And that's all I can say at this point. We're looking into it, and we'll be coming out with more data as we learn what happened there.
So can you confirm it was an Israeli attack that destroyed a big chunk of that Jabalia refugee camp?
Yes, I can. We were focused again on a target, a senior commander, Wolf, and we'll be updating you with more data as the hour moves ahead.
But even if that Hamas commander was there amidst all those Palestinian refugees who are in that Jabalia refugee camp, Israel still went ahead and dropped a bomb there, attempting to kill this Hamas commander, knowing that a lot of innocent civilians, men, women, and children, presumably would be killed. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's not what you're hearing, Wolf. We're focused on this commander, again, who you'll get more data who this man was, killed many Israelis. We're doing everything we can. It's a very complicated battle space. There could be infrastructure there. There could be tunnels there. We're still looking into it, and we'll give you more data as the hour moves ahead.
But you know that there are a lot of refugees, a lot of innocent civilians, men, women, and children in that refugee camp as well, right?
This is the tragedy of war, Wolf. I mean, as you know, we've been saying for days, move south. Civilians that are not involved with Hamas, please move south.
I'm just trying to get a little bit more information. You knew there were civilians there. You knew there were refugees, all sorts of refugees, but you decided to still drop a bomb on that refugee camp, attempting to kill the Hamas commander. By the way, was he killed?
I can't confirm yet. There'll be more updated. Yes, we know that he was killed. About the civilians there, we're doing everything we can to minimize. I'll say it again. Sadly, they are hiding themselves within civilian population. And again, we are doing this stage by stage, and we're going to go after every one of these terrorists who was involved in that heinous attack on the 7th of October.
I've learned over the years, Yumna, of doing this as a broadcaster on television and radio, to never insult the intellect, the intelligence of the audience. I often warn my colleagues and friends, who are in this business to do likewise. Don't ever assume that people are stupid. Do not insult their intelligence. I don't need to unpack the clip. The audience heard it for themselves. How do you hear that particular clip?
I mean, when I saw that clip yesterday, I mean, first and foremost, I was slightly surprised, to say the least, to see Wolf Blitzer's line of questioning. I think from the start, we've seen complete complicity from the mainstream media, particularly from CNN, serving as stenographers for the Israeli military and Israeli government. So, I mean, I think that was a very basic line of questioning, but in reality, that was the most pushback we've seen against Israeli officials from mainstream media outlets like CNN. And then, I mean, to his answer, it's just truly, it's shocking, but also not surprising. You know, the disregard, of course, that Israel has for the lives of Gazans. You know, time and time again, Israel will bomb civilian areas knowingly, as it admitted in that clip, and then disregard Palestinian lives as collateral damage. And I want to point something else out that spokesperson said as well, which is that, you know, we've been urging for days for innocent, you know, Gazans not involved with Hamas to move south. So it's, you know, unfortunate that they stayed there, as if that justified killing them. But what's really important to note is from you know, there's a couple things. Logistically, you're talking about around half of the population that lives in northern Gaza. Gaza City, the most densely populated area of Gaza, is in northern Gaza. So Israel, you know, wanted about half of this entire strip's population to move south. Gaza, before October 7th, couldn't fit all of its people in Gaza. Now Israel wanted to force half of the population into the southern half of the strip, which is a logistical and humanitarian nightmare and disaster. And furthermore, we saw in you know, the hours and days after those initial orders to forcibly remove people from northern Gaza, we saw the so-called safe routes that Israel had announced and deemed as safe routes being bombed and targeted by Israeli airstrikes. Since Israel announced and that all Palestinians of the northern Gaza Strip should be moving south, Israel has continued nonstop to relentlessly bomb southern Gaza as well. And so we saw Palestinians who have evacuated northern Gaza be killed by Israeli bombs in southern Gaza. And so, you know, you can't blame the Palestinians for not leaving their homes, because no matter where they go, if they stay in their homes, they're going to be bombed. If they go along the safe routes, they're being bombed. And if they move to so-called designated areas in southern Gaza, they're also being bombed.
Yep. I've known Wolf for years, and I think if Wolf were here now, he'd say we're friends. We've, again, known each other and done all kinds of work together over the years. When I saw that clip yesterday, the first thing I thought, similar to your thinking, my mouth just opened up, and I was like, wow. I said, Wolf? And the question I ask now is whether or not you think that in that moment, hearing what he was hearing, all of a sudden his conscience just sort of kicked in and he went down that line of questioning, or whether or not you think that line of questioning was intentional, given your earlier point that the mainstream media has to be hearing from all kinds of Americans about the way they're covering this, to use your word, being stenographers for Israel.
Sure. I mean, look, I would hope that Wolf Blitzer and the other anchors and reporters at CNN who have been acting as mouthpieces for the Israeli and U.S. governments, you know, would have had this moment of, you know, awakening that awakened their consciousness. But as you said, what I really think is happening is that the American mainstream media, as well as the American government, is seeing how absolutely distraught the American population is as what's happening, how distraught people are at the official line of our media and of our government that's funding Israel's crimes in Gaza. And we saw, you know, Palestinians in Ramallah, and we saw Egyptians at the Rafah crossing confronting CNN reporters over their coverage. And essentially kicking them out of those areas. And so I think what is happening is that, you know, as a response to the widespread outcry over the media coverage of this and the American government's position, I think we are seeing a lot of these media organizations try to do damage control and are trying to do, you know, more sort of two-sidesy types of coverage. And, they're starting to slowly give some coverage, for example, to bereaved Palestinian American families, in addition to the back-to-back coverage of the bereaved families of Israeli hostages in Gaza.
I'm cautious about, and actually hesitant and reticent to use the word entertaining, but that's exactly what it is. If you want to be entertained today about a serious subject, and yet just kind of sit back and laugh, Amy Schumer, the well-known entertainer, comedian, actress, who is Jewish, has been doing a lot of posting lately, and she posted some stuff yesterday quoting Dr. King, and she was trying to make the argument as to where King would stand on this. She found an old clip of King talking about Israel. And you want to be entertained. I'm talking to the audience now. You want to be entertained. Just find the chat back and forth. It's everywhere online. Find Amy Schumer and then find what Bernice King, Dr. King's baby, said to her. And I promise you, it will make your day. So Amy jumps out using a clip of King, and then King's daughter comes back and says, "Hold up, wait a minute. Let me tell you what really happened here and what my dad really said and what my dad really meant." And she pulls another clip. So it's just an interesting back and forth. But my point is that in this media space, people are using all kinds of sources to make the points that they want to make, including trying to put words in King's mouth that he did not mean or suggest. And people have done that for decades, but in this moment, they're even reaching for Dr. King, this Nobel Peace Prize winner, I might add, a pacifist, I might add. They're even trying to pull King into this debate. I digress on that. Let me ask this. I'm asking a question with 2 minutes to go, Yumna, and I'm grateful for your time. How much longer do you think the Biden administration, since you mentioned them earlier, how much longer can they go? Biden, Secretary of State Blinken, how much State Department writ large, how much longer can they hold on to this policy that we all saw in this memo a few weeks ago, not using the phrase ceasefire, not using the word de-escalation? They're holding firm on that at the moment, but I don't know how much longer they can do that.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the question that I've been asking myself. That's the question a lot of us have been asking. We've been scratching our heads, how many more thousands of dead children in Gaza is it going to take for the Biden administration to say, okay, this needs to end? And it's gone far past the point of the Biden administration saying, we're not going to use these words like ceasefire or de-escalation. We have seen the Biden administration now actively advocating against the ceasefire and saying, quote, that a ceasefire is only going to help Hamas. Well, I think the global consensus, as we've seen from protests across the world, in the U.S. and across the world, we've seen this in the polls as well, is that the global population and the people and the citizens of the world largely are demanding a ceasefire and believe that a ceasefire would not benefit Hamas, but it would benefit the lives of millions of innocent people in Gaza who are being slaughtered. So I don't know how much longer the Biden administration is going to go, through with this position and maintaining the unequivocal support and funding of Israel's bombardment of Gaza. But what I can say is the longer that the Biden administration continues down this line, the more it's going to hurt them in the future. Next year is an election year, and I can't imagine any Muslim, American, Arab, anyone of conscience on the left who would vote for Biden next year come election time.
We'll continue this conversation in a moment, talking about the humanitarian crisis with Arwa Demom on Tavis Smiley. For now, we thank Yumna Patel, who is the Palestine news director for the U.S.-based publication Mondoweiss. She is based in Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank. Been reporting from there for a number of years now. Yumna, thanks for your reporting. Good to have you on the program. All the best to you.
Thanks for having me.
My great delight. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
We've made it to the middle of the week. It's Wednesday, November 1st. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The House Ethics Committee says there'll be an update soon on the investigation of Congressman George Santos. The committee said in a statement Tuesday that it has contacted about 40 witnesses, authorized over 36 subpoenas, and reviewed over 170,000 pages of documents in its probe. The New York Republican has pleaded not guilty to 23 charges, including wire fraud and identity theft. Jury selection is underway in the federal trial of a former Louisville, Kentucky police detective involved in the raid that killed Breonna Taylor. Brett Hankerson is accused of violating the civil rights of the African-American woman who was shot to death during a no-knock raid on her home. He's already been acquitted of state charges. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. If you're like many people, you may think custom blinds is a job for expensive professionals. Well, at Blindster, if you have a tape measure and a screwdriver, you can install our custom blinds and save big. Plus, we guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
Is this the This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. The Clippers beat Orlando by 16 last night at Crypto.com. 27 points and 7 assists for Paul George. James Harden was in the building. He watched the game from a luxury suite. Harden is expected to make his Clippers debut on Monday against the Knicks in New York. He'll be a spectator again tonight when the Clippers and Lakers meet up at Crypto. 7 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. Congratulations to Lakers legend Magic Johnson. According to Forbes magazine, Magic has reached billionaire status. Magic's net worth is a reported $1.2 billion. Magic joins LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Tiger Woods in the Billionaire Club. LeBron became a billionaire in 2022. Magic's numerous business investments include part ownership of the Dodgers, the LA Sparks, and the NFL Washington Commanders. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. Visit jpmorganchase.com/racial equity and get the tools to help reach your financial goals.
As veterans, we're no strangers to helping others.
That's what we were taught, service before self.
But we do have one question for the veterans listening.
When was the last time you reached out for help?
If you or someone you know needs resources, whether it's for stress, finances, employment, or mental health, don't wait. Reach out.
Find more information at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
If you are a private individual or a small business owner who has had problems obtaining a business loan, credit card, or just even acquiring an apartment, please call Alliance Hillview LP for a free consultation at area code 510-459 510-459-6001. That's area code 510-459-6001. Remember, don't let your past determine your future.
Do you have both Medi-Cal and Medicare?
If so, the new LA Care plan called Medicare Plus can help you get the most out of your health plan for $0.
LA Care provides personalized service to Angelinos like us.
Plus, it gives us access to doctors and specialists across Los Angeles County.
For zero cost, we get access to full benefits.
From vision coverage,
in-home support services,
to prescription drug coverage,
and a quarterly over-the-counter allowance.
Plus personal equipment,
meal programs,
a gym membership,
and so much more.
For more than 25 years,
LA Care has provided Angelinos with access to quality health care at an affordable cost.
For our families,
our seniors,
our community,
it's a plus.
It's a plus.
For all of us.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley in conversation now with Ara Damon. You just heard a powerful conversation with Yumna Patel of Mondawais, and I want to continue this dialogue now with Ara Damon. In case you've just tuned in, we've been talking about this Israeli air attack yesterday that hit apartment blocks in a residential area of a very densely populated refugee camp, killing and wounding hundreds. The director of a nearby hospital said that scores were killed, but at this hour we expect the death toll to rise, given that people are trapped under rubble still. Israel says it was successful in killing Hamas militants. And one Israeli spokesman suggested that collateral damage is, well, it's just a part of war. You heard us play the clip of Wolf Blitzer questioning, Wolf at CNN, questioning this Israeli official yesterday, and it was kind of chilling to hear his sort of flippant response. That's my characterization, sort of flippant response. Well, it's a casualty of war. There's collateral damage. We were going after one guy, and yes, we knew there were tons of other innocent civilians in the area, but these guys hide among civilians, and we did what we felt we needed to do. There you have it. Collateral damage is just a part of war. So it's clear that this war is creating a disastrous humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and again, that's the mother of all understatements. Ara Damon is a former international correspondent for CNN and the president and founder of the International Network for Aid, Relief, and Assistance. I want to ask her in a moment about the humanitarian crisis, but given that she spent a couple of decades as a reporter and working for CNN, where Wolf is employed. Ara, first of all, welcome to our program. Good to have you on. How are you today?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. You know, for those of us who are following this really closely, that question of how are you, it's so simple.
Yeah.
But we can't really answer it.
Yeah. No, it's a very good question. That's a very powerful point. I am accustomed to saying, as this audience knows, when people ask me, Tavis, how are you? I tell people consistently, and I mean this, I live by this, it's an edict from my life, that if I complained, I'd be an ingrate. That's my sentiment, that if I complained, I'd be an ingrate. And that works even in this moment, because with all this happening around us, if I complained, I'd still be an ingrate. At least I'm not in Palestine getting bombed right about now. But I take your point that it's hard to answer, how are you? I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. Let me just ask right quick. Did you hear, you were at CNN for a couple of decades reporting for them. Did you hear Wolf's interview yesterday? Did you hear this clip that we played earlier?
I did, yes.
Okay,
yes.
I'll need to play it again then. For those who just tuned in, they may have missed it. But you heard it. So let me start with that. I want to start with your former reporter side, and then we'll get to the humanitarian side, the work that you do now at the International Network for Aid, Relief, and Assistance. How did you process this Israeli official's response to Wolf's question about why they would drop this bomb looking for one guy when they knew there were innocents all around?
It was probably the most honest statement we've ever heard from an Israeli official. As they say, you know, actions speak louder than words, and Israeli officials can say over and over again, as they have said every single time that there is some sort of a bombing campaign of Gaza, with this current one being completely unprecedented, about how they take care not to cause civilian casualties, and they're so worried about and saddened by the civilian casualties that happened this time, to hear an Israeli official say, actually, do you know what? We knew there were civilians there, and yet we made that calculus. We flat out decided that our target, our military strategic gain, was worth all those people that were going to get killed. And here's the crazy thing. You know, there actually is this weird, obscure sort of calculus that does happen in times of war. And I spent 20 years covering this stuff, starting with the 2003 U.S.-led invasion of Iraq. And I've spent a lot of time with the military.
Mm-hmm.
The Geneva Convention is very vague on this. It says that a strike can happen knowingly that will cause civilian casualties if it is assessed that the military gains will offset those civilian deaths. I mean, who makes that? Who does that kind of math? I have no idea. But along those lines, interestingly, I just heard an interview with Mark Garlasco, who was the former chief of high-value targeting at the Pentagon during the U.S.-led war in Iraq in 2003. You know what their number was to go after Saddam Hussein or other high-value targets? It was 30 civilians.
Mm-hmm. But and by that you mean they could get away with killing 30 and just justifiably?
It was palatable to them. It was acceptable to them to kill 30 civilians if they were also going to get a high-value target in Iraq like Saddam Hussein.
That's chilling. And again, and I know this sort of calculus exists, but to hear you just break that down, and to quote this former official, it is chilling. That the calculus is that we can justify killing up to 30 innocent people if we can get a high value target. That, I mean, how do you trade 30 lives for one? I'm not naive. I understand the calculus, but how they do it at least. But that is chilling. I can't find another word to hear that breakdown. You know, the other thing I thought about Arwa yesterday when I saw this clip, I was the first sort of assessing Wolf, who I've known for years, and again, as I said earlier, Wolf and I are friends. I think he'd say that if he were here. We've known each other for a long time, done a lot of stuff together. But I asked our earlier guest whether she thought in that moment Wolf automatically found his conscience all of a sudden, and went down a brilliant line of questioning, as it were, or whether or not CNN is hearing from folk, as are the other networks and the government, hearing from people about the way they're covering this, and it was intentional for him to do that. Because as you know, Wolf used to live in Israel, and was very much a reporter, very popular reporter in Israel for years before he came to CNN here stateside. So I wasn't quite sure how that actually happened. I was glad it went in that direction so we could see that sort of transparency and honesty. But the other thing I thought was whether or not this spokesperson will ever see the light of day again. And here's what I mean by that. My mind went back to George W. Bush when he was president, and he basically, told, remember, you're doing a heck of a job, Brownie. The director of FEMA, Michael Brown, they'd left all these black folk to die in New Orleans. They left them on rooftops to die. And Condoleezza Rice was at Saks Fifth Avenue in New York buying shoes at that time. And George Bush eventually did a flyover, but they left all these black folk to die after Hurricane Katrina on rooftops and beyond in New Orleans. And George Bush goes to FEMA and does a tour and tells Michael Brown, the director, you're doing a heck of a job, Brownie. So Brownie gets a pat on the back from the president for letting these Negroes die, these black folk die in New Orleans. I wonder whether or not this spokesperson, when that clip went viral yesterday, does he get applauded by Bibi and the Israeli establishment, political establishment, or does he get demoted and never sees the light of day again for making such a flippant response? It was an honest response, but many saw it as sort of flippant. What's your read on what happens to him as a spokesperson?
One has to hand it to these Israeli spokespeople because, and this is why this was so surprising, because they stay so on message. It's like they have these 3 lines and it's constantly on repeat. We take care to avoid civilian casualties. We told the civilians to move to the south. Never mind that, there's no route for them to take to the south, and they're still getting bombed in the south. Yeah. It's Hamas. It's this. It's that. I think they can backtrack this actually pretty easily.
Okay, tell me how.
He can backtrack it and say, my tone was misunderstood. We decry all civilian casualties. We're talking about Israel's national security here, et cetera, which in and of itself is a bit of an absurd argument because history will teach us, and I will never understand why we keep repeating the same mistakes of history, but history will teach us that doing exactly what Israel is doing to Gaza right now is the assured way to guarantee that Israel does not stay secure.
Yeah.
Just look at what happened in Iraq after the U.S. led invasion and occupation there.
Nope, it's that old line, that insanity is doing the same thing the same way and expecting a different result. When we come forward with Arwa Damon, the president and founder of the International Network for Aid, Relief, and Assistance, I want to shift gears and talk now not about the politics, not about the media and the way they're covering or not covering this, the way they become spokespersons or stenographers, as one of our earlier guests said, for Israel in this process. But I want to talk about the humanitarian crisis. We'll do that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive.
Now. We tend not to think about now. We dream about tomorrow, relive yesterday. But right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. Victory over cancer is there for the taking by you, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. Learn more at v.org.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Is your eyesight changing?
I can't read this anymore.
Don't lose hope. People just like you are working every day using Braille, screen magnification, speech technology, and other tools and blindness skills. Your eyesight may have changed, but your goals, they don't have to. We can help. Visit us on the web at blind.org. The National Federation of the Blind. Live the life you want.
Anyone can choose to make a difference. You can help people succeed, rebuild after disasters, protect the environment, or feed the hungry. Not only will you make a difference for others, but for yourself. You can earn money for college, learn career skills, and make friendships that last a lifetime. Make a difference. Choose your future. Choose AmeriCorps.
No young person should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep at night, or whether anyone cares about them.
But the reality is, 1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year.
For over 50 years, Covenant House has been helping youth in crisis and giving them the support and tools they need to succeed in life. To learn more, go to covenanthouse.org today. Thank you for caring.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
Let's get back to more of Arwa Damon, who is the former international correspondent for CNN and now president and founder of the International Network for Aid, Relief, and Assistance. This humanitarian. Let me just be upfront with you, Arwa. The conversation about the humanitarian crisis is starting to really annoy me, and let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I'm annoyed by it. It's because we can't get a genuine and sincere conversation about ceasefire, about de-escalation, but people want to pivot ever so quickly to the humanitarian crisis as if somehow that is going to distract us from the real conversation that we ought to be having, and I don't want to fall for that banana in the tailpipe, so to speak. But at the same time, I do want to take your temperature on this disastrous humanitarian crisis in Gaza and how you're seeing what's going on and how you're responding to what's going on.
Well, here's the thing, though. Those two are actually quite connected. I mean, if you get a ceasefire or a cessation of hostilities, even for a brief period of time, you can address a chunk of the humanitarian crisis. But right now, humanitarian aid is being used as a part of this whole package of collective punishment, with Israel shutting off, water, fuel, electricity, and basically not allowing any trucks to go through. Look, Rafah right now is getting max? I think max that went through is 36 trucks a day. Gaza, during times when it's not under insane bombardment, per day gets 400 to 500 trucks. So right now, when everyone should be scaling up humanitarian aid, they're getting 7% of what they used to get before. And just to be, clear with you and your listeners, so I started my charity in 2015 when I was still at CNN. And we focus on looking at sort of the gaps in access to medical and mental health care amongst war-injured children. So we end up taking on the super complicated cases, much like many of the cases that are going to emerge from Gaza now, that take years of surgeries. These kids have the kinds of injuries where 1 or 2 surgical interventions, it's not going to be enough. They're going to literally need years of surgery, not to mention years of mental health. One of our founding doctors, our founding members, Dr. Hassan Abu Sitta, he's been at Shifa Hospital since day 2 of this. And I mean, the stories he's telling, like, I don't know how he's living through this and not vomiting on a regular basis.
Just because I'm fascinated right quick, watching my time here. CNN allowed you to start this charity while you were still reporting for CNN?
Yeah. Yep. And they were extraordinarily supportive.
Wow.
Yeah, and also I have to say, because I know there's this whole conversation and whatnot, so I've done a ton of reporting from Palestinian territories and from Gaza and obviously all over the Middle East.
Sure.
I have to say, in my personal experience, I have never once been told what to say or not to say something.
Sure. Yep. No, I see that part, and yet that does not mean that these two things can't coexist. They didn't tell you what to say, and yet the coverage is still imbalanced. Those two things are not. They can coexist at the same time. I think you and I both agree on that. Our remaining moments with Arva Damon when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
1 in 4 Americans today are living with a disability. I'm one of them. People with disabilities are extremely talented, resilient problem solvers that have so much to offer. And we've got a trusted ally on our side, an organization we can rely on, Easter Seals. Easter Seals is leading the way to full equity, inclusion, and access to healthcare, employment, and education for people with disabilities, families, and communities. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours.
Learn more and get involved at easterseals.com.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
The Chase Ink Business Premier Card is made for people who make things happen, like me. I'm Sam, founder and CEO of Manifest, a product design company that makes everyday products designed smarter. I get 2.5% cash back on purchases of $5,000 or more, plus unlimited 2% cash back on all other purchases, which helps us make more smart ideas into a brilliant reality.
The Ink Business Premier Card. Learn more at chase.com/business premier. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours. Real business owner compensated for their participation. Account subject to credit approval. Restrictions and limitations apply. Cards are issued by JP Morgan Chase Bank. Any member FDIC.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
So, Arwa Damon, I've got about 4 minutes left here. I would call the following, again, my assessment, I'd call the following how would I put it? At best, complicated. At worst, hypocrisy. And that is this notion of the U.S.'s, I think, untenable position at the moment of supporting the dropping of bombs and also the handing out of Band-Aids. I mean, it's so incongruent, again, to be supporting the dropping of bombs on these people and then giving them Band-Aids the next day. How do you read the U.S.'s position in that regard at this moment?
I think if only the U.S. were giving them Band-Aids, then maybe they could actually do something with the Band-Aids, because there's barely enough of that coming through. You know, the doctor who I was just mentioning earlier, the other day, they had to do an amputation on a little boy without anesthesia. They do not have enough morphine to give to children and adults post-op. So if you ended up in hospital with 50% of your body covered in very, very thick, debilitating burns, you're not getting any morphine. You're going to get paracetamol, which is basically Tylenol. I mean, look, here's the thing. Palestinians and Arabs, actually, or anyone who is non-Western, knows that the U.S. views them as different and as somehow less than. And it's not a huge surprise. And so Palestinians, they know that Israel and the West largely view them as less than, and that they've had this view for 75 years. It's absurd. And Palestinians for decades have had to make the case of, no, we're not less than. Our life is not worth less than yours. Look, the U.S. is fantastic at building up this image of itself and of thinking that it can do one thing, but then if it does something else, it's going to somehow create the smokescreen. I've always compared America to Saddam Hussein's palace. So before the U.S.-led invasion, you'd see Saddam Hussein's palace, you know, from the outside, and it's this big, strong, formidable structure, and the crystal chandeliers and the gold-plated, you know, toilet seats. And then you go inside, and you realize that the crystal chandeliers are actually glass, and it's gold paint on top of plastic.
I was reading a piece this morning, got about 90 seconds here, reading a piece this morning to your point about your friend who's a doctor in one of these hospitals, where Gaza doctors are saying that hospitals at this moment have to choose between who lives and who dies amid this worsening humanitarian crisis. So they're not trying to save all lives. They literally, based on the predicament, have to choose who lives today and who dies today.
Exactly. They have to triage, basically, but they have to triage with the living. And right now, as we speak, the Shifa and Indonesian hospitals are hours away from shutdown. I mean, they're literally coming out on TV and social media begging civilians to bring whatever fuel they might still have, even if it's just 1 liter. Gaza's only cancer hospital has shut down. That's it. If you're a cancer patient and you need this treatment to stay alive, it's not available for you anymore.
Yep. And yet the U.S. at this moment, at least, has not called for a ceasefire, has not called for any de-escalation. I will leave it there for the moment. Arwa Damon is former international correspondent for CNN, president and founder of the International Network for Aid, Relief, and Assistance, which she started while she was still at CNN. Arwa, thank you for your work and witness. Good to have you on the program. All the best to you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
My honor. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.